Hmm. Oh, that's weird. Hmm.
Hello.
Oh.
Hi, Fox.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm not quite sure what the deal ski was.
No idea.
But we're here. Ugh. Well, this is why I love the open space principles, right? You know, whenever it starts is the right time. Whatever Zoom call it happens in is the right place.
You just embrace whatever comes.
Exactly. Right. Just, just, just take it in.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, gang, to the Wise Crowd's design call here on. We are at the 9th of January, 2023. Haha! It's the first time I've got that out on the first try. Yeah, let's do this damn thing, huh? Hey, Rusty, what's up? Welcome to the party. You are exactly on time, as we all are. An invitation. Does anybody have an invitation for a couple rounds of impromptu networking?
Um, well, I'll be using this week. What are your well-being challenges?
Boom, good enough for now, safe enough to start. What are your well-being challenges for 2023 or 22? Uh-oh, hold on, let me hustle people around. I clicked the automatic breakout button, and of course, I'm not happy with the results. So it's a bumpy ride. Welcome to the new year, gang.
Just a question, Jeremy, do you guys record every session always?
For the consultation, yeah, not the impromptu. So let me turn it off here. But consultations, yeah, we do create artifacts. So if you have a design brief, keep it as anonymous as possible for context sake.
Okay.
Let's see. And that should do. Oh no. Yep. And Eileen, if you want to jump into yonder breakout. Let's see. Oh, nope. We're still figuring it out.
Was it correct with another room?
Yeah, Eileen was slow on the uptake. It looks like. Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, this is a good time. Like just like the first time, all over again.
So what's the plan right now? Do we all discuss the things that we set as our goals for the new year in this room, or do we do it in breakout rooms?
Yeah, well, my apologies. It sounds like let's try a hard stop all over again. This is not clear for everybody. It looks like. Oh man, good times. So normally we kick off with impromptu networking, right? Just to get folks into the interaction space and go from there. But considering that today is a very special day, I think we can try
I,
something else.
I'm sorry, I'm totally new to your meeting, so I'm not acquainted with your um, habits or with your
For sure.
artifacts.
Yeah. Well, I guess then let's talk about intention. So in this call, the Wise Crowd's design call, we're just here in a sort of give and get help space. mostly for the design, for the purpose of workshop or meeting design. You're we got a little bit of background noise. I'm gonna ask you to mute yourself or make you do that since I have the godlike powers on Zoom. So the whole point, like I said, is just to give and get help regarding any design challenges we've got, mostly focusing on what structures can we use to address the design challenges in our life and how we might string them together. So that's our primary goal. Since that is a very participatory space, we're going to do that usually in 2 moves. The first move out of the gate is a game called Impromptu Networking. Have you played that one before?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Rusty said got to know. So Impromptu Networking is just a series of different one-on-one conversations, and that just helps us to sort of get to know each other and warm up into the space, and then jump into the design briefs. And usually those one-on-ones are just 4 or 5 minutes in length. So it's just a short opportunity to sort of get to know each other and warm up. And then we jump into the structure that is wise crowds, and wise crowds will be our primary act. So maybe that helps clarify things.
Yeah.
And
All
he
clear.
says he is surrounded by kids and babysitter failed. I recognize that, dude. So no worries. So with that squared away, I'm going to invite Eileen and Rusty into one breakout space, and Gennady.
Yes, correct.
Was that somewhere close to correct on the first try? Wow.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. In fact.
All right. So just ignore the prompt when it pops up there. And what was the question again, Eileen? What are your
well-being challenges?
Well-being challenges. Boom. On your mark, get set. Gennady, so you hang out with me, and then Rusty and Eileen are going to go chat it up.
Okay.
And boom, there were some hiccups. It was a bumpy ride, but we're here. So we're going to make use of this. What is it? Wise crowds. Has anybody used wise crowds before, or Troika Consulting? Awesome. Yeah. Cool. And we've got a mixed bag. Well, Sherry, do you want to give Gennady the game on how wise crowds works? Or Eileen, considering you guys are so like consistent in my life, you don't even know that you have become kind of one person. Sherry, Eileen is your face just because I see you guys.
Okay. So what we do is I'll explain what I understand about it is come up with a challenge that you might have, like maybe you have a group that you're going to be meeting with, or a problem you have not yet been able to solve around engaging other people. It's sort of focused on LS, some way to engage a group that might be more effective. And so what you do is you explain the problem to us in about 2 minutes, and then we ask, so it's really clear these are very distinct sections, and we don't interrupt you, we listen. And then we move into clarifying questions for about 3 to 5 minutes, and we just ask questions, but the questions can't be advicey, like have you tried X or Y? They're really to really understand deeper. And then we have you turn off your camera and you mute, and then you listen to us brainstorm, problem solve, our perspectives on how we see the problem. And you're taking notes while your camera's off. That's an important step. I didn't realize when I've done this before. And then you come back on for the last minute and you tell us what resonated and what are your actionable steps. Is that, do I have that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I actually already have done this a couple of times. Just forgot the name.
Cool. Well, perfect.
But thank you very much for the explanation once more.
Well, that'll be our game plan here. Then the question moves to the design brief. Does anybody have a design brief or a help request they want consultation on?
What is the definition of a design brief?
Excellent question.
It's just a challenge that you're having. So, like I brought problems like how to end a meeting better. What happens when people are sitting there folding their arms and not participating, you know, things like that, or a problem that you have that you wanted to come up with a more creative way to engage groups.
Yeah,
I'll
so there's a
I'll be the guinea pig, and being the newbie, I just have to ask that you be gentle with me.
Same here.
wow, that's where we tend to be a relatively gentle bunch. But well, there's coming back on this question around design brief, there's two answers to that. So one is a broad answer, and I think Eileen gave you sort of the broad answer, like it's just a help request in general. When I say the word design brief, there's also a narrow answer, and that is sort of minimum specifications on how we sort of plan out meetings, workshops, and time together. And that is a basic description on the place or the context, a basic description on the purpose or intended outcome from that time together, basic description of the participants, the people that whose activity is required to achieve the outcome, and some description of the sort of particular constraints. And those usually look like pretty like specific details, like, is it a 1 hour call? Do we have 4 hours? Are we going to be online? Are we going to be face-to-face in a co-located, stuff like that? So that might be the specific stuff, the narrow answer to what is a design brief.
Would you be willing, since that's the first time I've heard that, to walk through those elements one at a time?
Yeah, what I might say is if
Or
you
is that
sort
a
of
totally foreign question? Go ahead.
no, it's totally fair. What I might say is just start with the broad definition, and then we can ask specific questions for the elements of that are unclear.
Okay, so to start with, this is an Agile and Scrum team environment. Anyone who's not familiar with that. So in that environment, I am the Scrum Master for a large team of about 20 people. This is in a US government environment as opposed to a public for-profit environment. I am new. I've been with the team since October, but I was given a set of special instructions when to join the team because of what they were working on. I was told to be hands-off until they're done with that particular project. They're now done with that project, so we can now move on to the next project, which is probably going to end up being a similar hands-off type directive, but we'll see. They are not, by almost any description, a true Scrum team. So they're not operating. The only ceremony event, Scrum event that they do is a daily stand-up. They don't do any of the other events. They have people assigned to roles, but in name only. And lastly, the team is made up of about 1/3 functional specialist. If there were a Scrum team, you might describe that as a product owner, their system analyst, and 2/3 developers, software programmers. And they have no desire to do Scrum or anything like it. Their past Scrum Master, who I replaced, was anti-Scrum. And so the question I'm bringing to the team is, are you interested in any form of continuous improvement at all? And if you are, how might that look? That's one of the answers I'm looking for. I don't care whether you do Scrum or not. I would like it to be of an Agile mindset. So thinking about continuous improvement. I don't know if any of these terms are foreign to you guys. So what do I want? I would like to be a positive influence on the health of the team, inviting them in the direction of becoming more aware as a team of their problems There are problems there that they are definitely not aware of that I can see as an outsider and by interviewing people. And then constructing an invitation that's inviting enough and provokes enough curiosity to want them to move in a direction of investigation. Or at a minimum, I would say observation. Observation of self as a team and be curious about what that's about. So that'd be the most, I don't know if I hit all the points, but that would be the most basic description of the ecosystem.
Cool. And then we can sort of move into clarifying questions. So does anybody have an initial clarifying question that's sort of burning on the tip of their tongue?
Yeah, you had said, Rusty, that some people don't want to participate. And I'm wondering, are you inside or outside the organization? And is this really optional for them?
Good question. I am, in one sense, I'm outside because I'm a brand new Scrum Master, but I'm also a contractor. So I'm not a full-time employee. That's one barrier to relationship, if you will. And yes, Scrum is being forced on them by management. One of the problems I've run into in the last 2 weeks was getting management to articulate the benefits they want out of a Scrum and Agile approach. And they are unable to articulate that. So, and wrestling with that this weekend. Initially, my plan on Friday was to go to management and say, can you tell me what you want? They're having difficulty articulating what they want. So over the weekend, I thought a lot about if they're having difficulty articulating what they want, maybe it might be beneficial to put in front of them a menu of things they could get via Scrum and Agile and let them choose from that. So I'm working up the courage to do that. Because one of the things they may not, one of the reasons they may not know what they want is that they've never seen what healthy Agile and Scrum looks like. To allow for that possibility, which is I find to be very typical in the industry. Most people have never seen a healthy version of it.
I'm still looking for Scrum Utopia myself. Gennady, you had another question?
Yeah, my question would be, do you know the source of the rejection or the negative attitude towards Scrum? Is it more of prejudice about Scrum, or is it more of opposition to have something new being forced on you by the team members?
My first honest answer is I don't know. My second best guess is it's around the forced issue, not having choice. The third response I might offer would be lack of perceived value. For example, their description of a sprint review when they did them was they would go into the sprint review, show what they accomplished, 2 managers attending, their only response would be, that's great, guys, thanks for your hard work, see you next time. And their reaction to that was, we're a bunch of 20, 30, 40-year experienced professionals. We don't get a lot of value out of that response, so they stopped doing sprint reviews.
Yeah. No, I like it. We got some greatest hits going on here. Okay. So I'm going to go back through this laundry list for the design brief and just see if I've got clarification on the points. So in terms of the context, you said this was a governmental organization and that they have sort of, I get the sense that they are in a must-use Scrum context and don't seem like they have a lot of desire for that. Right. And it sounds like your purpose, your outcome is how might you become a positive influence to become more, for the team to become more aware of the problems and invite them in the direction of investigation towards that.
Correct.
In participants, you mentioned that the group seems to be about 1/3 specialists. You've got some analysts, some developers, and it sounds like some form of producty person. some opinion aggregator. And around those particulars, I've got some questions about whether you guys are meeting together virtually, or if the team
all remote. And the only meeting we do is the daily stand-up, and that's it.
Okay.
If that's a decent
No.
form of resistance indication.
Yeah, that could be a good start. Any other
And
clarifying questions?
the stand-up is just a roll call. Call your name and that's it.
Okay.
Do you know what's the? Sorry, I'd have a question. Do you know what's the previous employment of the team members were? Do they work in this place for like decades, or have they been to other places? And do you know the effect? This are in fact two questions. And do you know what do they like, and what does bother them about the work they have, or do you know their desires, or what's their status on this?
The first part is they are mostly long-term government employees. As a matter of fact, the assistant group leader outside of the team has only been a government employee, has never worked in a public for-profit corporation. What was part B?
About their what do they like, what do they appreciate at the place they work, and are there maybe some things they would like to have changed?
Well, they think they're doing a great job. As a matter of fact, in one-on-one interviews with team members, a very common response, the first time I heard it, I was shocked. I was when I did one-on-one with the team members, I was inquiring about interest in continuous improvement, knowing what I know about humans, knowing what I know about groups of humans getting together and to do work, how the brain works, psychology, so on and so forth. I know that there is always room for improvement. And I know that there's always things going on that the team is not aware of. And so I was doing one-on-one interviews to inquire around, was there any appetite for improvement? My typical words are continuous improvement. And one of the responses I got was, Rusty, why do you think there's something wrong with the team? And I was really shocked. I was asking about, are you interested in improvement? And it was coming across as an accusation that the team is broken. And that really kind of threw me for a loop, but I found it to be a consistent response. So they're quite happy doing what they're doing, I would argue in part because the amount of self-unawareness they sit in. And part of that is due to lack of communication, due to lack of curiosity. There's also a mix of fear and trust issues in there because they don't talk to each other. So they won't become vulnerable with each other. It's a very interesting challenge, but not untypical.
Sounds like a bunch of nerds that I've met before. All right. Well, I think that gives us some surface area for us to have a conversation about Rusty's situation. So, Rusty, Sherry, you got a clarifying question? What are you hoping to achieve?
I'll put it this way. You know what would bring me to tears is if there was any hint of openness, curiosity, desire to improve, desire to discuss the undiscussable, if you will. If I saw any inkling of that, I would be very excited, and I would like to be a part of, to use a harsh word, exploiting that.
All right. So we're cultivating curiosity. I like that one.
I think I have a question, but I don't know if it fits to this part.
So So let's have Rusty. So mute yourself and turn off your webcam, but importantly, listen while we have a conversation, and then you can throw the question at us.
There's nothing you can say that would offend me because you don't have permission to offend me. So do what you need to do.
Thank you very much. But actually not a think of offensive, of being offensive at all. From my perspective, is that Rusty has got a contract, an obligation to bring these people out of their comfort zone into something new, where they haven't been yet before, which obviously and naturally provokes some resistance, because we know why changing if there's no need to change, why putting out some efforts if you don't have a desire, if there's no need to bring it on. So this why and there would be only basically like two reasons to do so. One reason would be if it would be a contract where the contractor, the management would have said, okay, Rusty, now you have to do so because we need this and that. So to get some, to clarify the main object of the contract. And the second thing that misses is the agreement of the members of the team to get along with this change, to agree that, yes, we want to change, we need the change, we give you permission to induce this change and to work with us. For now, they're whether first thing nor the second thing. So it's pretty tricky. And which, well, you could, I think you could work with this if you would clarify with the team members, if you could show how useful it can be, how helpful it could be. But I think it's also pretty tough because, well, what I saw from employers in governmental positions here in Germany, for example, is they're not necessarily eager to change, at least if there's no need to.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think that you have to, that it's a good idea to force somebody to do so. The only thing you can do is actually just to offer some things to show what could be, to invite people to some changes, or some, even if these are some small changes. It's, yeah.
I can definitely dig that. So if I get where you're on about, basically looking at the fact that it doesn't seem like there's a help request from these guys, and there also doesn't seem to be any form of like coaching agreement. So like, absence those things, like you basically just have to, like, you know, open a door and then it literally invite them, would you like to walk through this door, and then sort of deal with the consequences. What's up, Sherry?
Troika, yeah. I was thinking about, yeah, like there's no pain point that he's aware of that anybody's in the mood to change, you know. And so just building on what Gennady said, like in healthcare, when people come in full resistance, we're actually harming them if we start telling them what to do. It's kind of a form of violence. So the smoker that says, well, my uncle smoked till he was 100, I'm not quitting. And we start telling them what to do, it's really harmful. So like assessing readiness for change and that cycle of change, they're in active resistance. And so we have to be way more skillful, I think, about working with that and not telling them what to do and not coming in, because that is such a recipe for failure. And one thing, you know, we like to do is like partnership statements like, oh, I can see you get a lot out of smoking. You really enjoy it. And whenever you're ready to quit, just come and I'll help you, like that, where, it's very soft and it's very invitational. And so I don't know, like, I think Jeremy alluded to this about opening a door and inviting people. So, the three basic human needs, two of them aren't being met here: autonomy and competence. They're feeling incompetent. They're feeling that they're not doing a good job. And so I don't know how you, Rusty, can do this job without being super clear on the success measure, having the support, if people are allowed to not participate. And then does that mean that they're not bringing value? And I'm wondering if the problem is a silo problem, and the lack of psychological safety. I mean, this team seems super checked out. They're all just doing their own thing. And what we like to say in healthcare is that you're not hired as a lone gun. That's not healthcare anymore. We're in this new world where we have to create a psychologically safe team, and that team has to be able to name their own problems. So I was thinking that TRIZ would be a great way to start. Like, if this thing absolutely sucked, what would it look like? And so that's what came up for me, is like, how do you do a job when you don't have a success measure? And then you also have people that don't identify any kind of problem. And I wondered if this is also like an 80-20 thing, where 80% of the people are engaged or would be, and are we just giving too much power to the 20% that got their arms folded and not engaged? So to me, like, how you get people to engage, what I've learned in liberating structures is to ask them these really big questions about what are your pain points? What hurts? What do you want to fix?
Cool. And that seems like it also, it seems like you've got a subgroup in there. So around TRIZ as a good intervention. So do you want to, Eileen, give a brief rundown on sort of how the nuts and bolts on TRIZ?
Right. Well, the invitational question is for them to first alone write down a list of things that would make this whole project improvement experience, whatever you want to call it, what would make it horrible, like the worst possible. And then you have them go into pairs and discuss their lists, and then into fours to discuss their lists, and then maybe come up with a cohesive list of 3 or 4 things from each group. And then, you kind of write those out, and that almost becomes the things that we're not going to do, right? The anti-list.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And Sherry, how did you want to build on that? Or did you not know your hand was raised?
While she's doing that, there's another resource I thought would be really helpful that I just listened to this podcast, Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, with the digital mindset authors. And they talk about these silos where you have the tech people that don't want to talk to anybody else. And there's now a new language around a growth mindset around how do we create a digital mindset. There's got to be this crossover. And it seemed like a really good book for organizations to read and almost have a discussion about.
What was that?
It seems like a book that could start off a great conversation with this group, the digital mindset book around how do we change, and just listen to the podcast, Brene Brown, Dare to Lead, and it's called The Digital Mindset. It's a 2-parter, and I think this is really speaking to his problem.
Ah, cool. Well, that also comes up very, very much rhymes with this thing that Rusty and I were talking about, this differentiation. I make a fusion between the values of digital and the values of ecology. I find them to be very, very similar. And liberating structures have a tendency of operating on these along the lines of the same values, which is why they tend to work in a lot of different contexts. If I come back to the question, which is what structures could be helpful for such a situation as this, I definitely like the suggestion of TRIZ, and I think more importantly is as Gennady, you mentioned this question around invitation, which is just basically going to be, what's it going to look like to like make a suggestion into this space? It's probably going to look like some form of, I know this is going to be weird, right? I would want to throw out a label and go, I know I'm going to ask you to do something that you're probably going to want. It's probably going to bring up some form of resistance. You're probably going to think this is a waste of time. You're probably going to think like all of the things that are going to cross their brain. I would want to tell them that they're going to cross their brain before I ask the question, do you want to try this? You know, so I would literally start with create a laundry list for myself, and very much in line with TRIZ, like just imagine all of the things, the negative ways they might respond to me asking the question, would you like to try X? Whatever your intervention is, whether that's a specific structure like TRIZ, or whether that is, I could also think a domain clarification. So from a Agile coachy perspective, I really like the domain clarification canvas, or the delegation. Another name for it is the delegation canvas from S3, Sociocracy 3.0. It basically asks people to be like really exquisitely clear in what their areas of responsibility are. So you can do that on a team level, or you can do that on an individual level. So I might give that to people and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how things fit together. You know, I like to play the role of stupid Agile coach. So my questions are always like, I'm confused. I don't get how this works. Can you this is a tool that might help me, figure things out. So can you take a look at this and like see if you've got all of this information, like if you can structure this information like for me like this, I might be able to understand it. And so domain clarification and a liberating structure that might work for this as well is purpose to practice. It is really about creating this level of clarity about things. What I like about domain clarification is it basically puts up a big high resolution map and gives you places to go, oh, well, we don't have answers to that. And you just go, great, cool. We don't have an answer for it. All right, that's fine. That's fair enough. And then, that's something we can do later. But, first, let's just try and get a low resolution pass through it. Just get all the information about where people think. And the domain clarification, to be a little bit specific, because I know that is a thing that makes it seem super abstract if I'm not very specific about what included in the domain clarification. So the delegation canvas includes a category for primary driver, the purpose. It includes a category for key responsibilities. It includes a box for dependencies. It includes a box for external constraints, key challenges, key deliverables, competencies, qualities, and skills, key resources, delegator responsibilities, key metrics, and monitoring and evaluation. So 11 of these big boxes that all have lots of different sub-questions. So, it's usually the type of thing you can just throw up and be like, put something in each one of these boxes. And one of those things that you can put is just a question mark. I don't have any idea. And just revealing where all the question marks is will also give you enough, give you a place to start and go, oh, so we don't have an answer to this question. How might we be able to provide clarification around those points? And that can, I always take responsibility as, I'm just stupid. I don't understand how things are going. And so as part of my figuring out how things are going and what we could do, this is one good way to get started. What's up, Cherry? Cherry's got a previous comment. On psychological safety, how might you make it safe to make mistakes in collaborative games? Also come up with team agreements. How might you make it safe to make mistakes? I mean, That is a big question. So
Yeah.
TRIZ is a way in particular. You have information for us, Eileen?
No, I mean, it was kind of a different thought, but go ahead, you finish.
Well, TRIZ is one way that could get us started. There's a way to take TRIZ and turn it into something a bit bigger and fun and more backward looking. And that is to do something like a fuck up festival. And a fuck up festival basically looks like you split everybody into pairs and you have them tell a story about a time when they made a big mistake, right? And whoever makes the biggest mistake based on the two people's stories, they sort of go on in a typical tournament structure. So you could like literally make like a playoff bracket with everybody in these things, and they would go on round after round until you had one person that would tell their story, their fuck up story, to the whole group. And what's nice about that experience is that usually they're very funny stories. And it also underscores the fact that we've all made mistakes and we have all survived those mistakes. Another particular structure that you might consider in that category that is a liberating structure is heard, seen, and respected. It's much more squishy and emotional, but that's another thing that you might want to invite people into and go, hey, you guys want to try a thing?
I was just thinking, I love that. Sorry, I'll just be a second. This idea when he said he's going to need courage to go to the leaders and ask them what they want and come up with a limited menu. But there's no way that I can do any of this work, and maybe any of us, if we don't know what they want, right? Like what the problem is. And so I do have trouble getting people to clarify what they want. And so I do have a limited menu. You can just make some guesses. Silos are a big problem. Toxic work environment, there's some, dealing with difficult others. So I have a limited menu of things that I offer people, and they usually want all of it. But, to try to get people to pin down, even when you're interviewing patients, like asking about symptoms, people have a really hard time naming things. So I was curious about why he needed courage to do that. And one of the exercises I like to do to start my kind of retreaty things is, and maybe it is that exercise about the tournament, where I ask people to go into threes and kind of do a troika on a time I was brave. Because in order to live a really good life, we have to be fiercely brave, I believe. And that is one of those things where people are sharing from their heart. So it's probably very similar to a big fuck up I made, and people are getting vulnerable in small groups, not in this big thing. So that's kind of a cool idea. Anyway, Gennady, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No worries, all fine. As a short-term helpful measurement, I would maybe do the 9 whys, or what, so what, now what, stuff like this. And regarding, I also absolutely agree that you need to have this mentality. You need a team that handles mistakes in a productive kind of way. So you need a team that says, okay, mistakes are not bad mistakes. We all make mistakes. Let's handle them openly. But I think before, and I think Fuck Up Festival is a great stuff as well, but and additionally to the Fuck Up Festival, or before the Fuck Up Festival, I think I would try to inspect the surroundings, or try to inspect the environment. Are there any threats to the participants, to the members, if they give away their fuck ups on whatever ways, either in the job or maybe privately. Maybe there are some private things between the members that are not visible yet, and so I would be just aware not to make things worse, or to try to be aware of the consequences that might also be for the team members. And it also helps me to understand the members. How easy would they open up with their fuck ups, or would they still be closed because they are aware of the consequences, which I might not be aware. So and I would run into closed doors with such things. So I think it's needed. It's really important to clarify the environment and to make the environment a safe space. And for this, by the way, we also need a clarification or agreement of the management, so that the management doesn't punish anybody if they admit some fuck ups.
Hi guys, sorry about that. I'm back. I don't know if you were finished or not, but I knocked my computer a bit and it caused me to be unable to come off mute and turn video on. So I'm based on what I'd heard so far, I'm telling myself I'm very lucky that you guys don't charge for this. You've added a lot of value. So what, if anything, did I miss, or what, if anything, can I contribute?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the time it's happening, so for sure. So I guess the question lands to you, actually, Rusty, which is, of what you have heard, what stands out as probably the most sort of salient, relevant, and insightful, and helps you, gives you the gumption, and or seems the most actionable?
It's those last two, obviously, that are the scariest. But I love your demonstration of ignorance and humility, would be one way of expressing it, or demonstration of humility through ignorance. I kind of like that. I will tell you that what I've heard contains a lot of gold. I think there's probably some more conversations to be had in a one-on-one format. This team doesn't seem to get together since I've been here in October at any time other than daily stand-ups. So there's no ritualized togetherness that comes from a human origin rather than a Scrum origin. And that strikes me as interesting, odd, and maybe the smallest of all the problems, if you will, that could be the least intimidating to attack, if you will. I don't know, there might be something there. So when I go through these situations, I'll hear phrases like that I'll want to Google, and partnership statements was one of those. So I want to learn more about that. TRIZ, I'm familiar with, I've never been through. I want to explore more about that. Someone said 80, 20% has too much power to not change. That's interesting in exploring, because I do have one personality on the team that is very powerful, very negative, very controlling, to the point where people are afraid of talking to this person. So there may be some gold in Brene Brown, Digital Mindset podcast. Is there an invitation for change? Is a good question, powerful question. I want to learn more about the domain canvas.
And I've got notes. I've just put a link in the chat to the document that I take notes on for
Well, tell me
around.
what's going on in the chat. There's a lot of traffic here. Is this
Yeah.
recordable, exploitable, transferable, pastable?
Yeah, one way or another, for sure.
Well, where does this go? This isn't automatically generated? Someone's generating this?
Yeah. So Sherry is our goddess of documentation here.
Oh,
And
okay.
she also has an additional question around, about curiosity around their schedule. Why are folks so busy?
Survival. Well, one is they're so busy because they're managing chaos. The other thing that I noticed that's really intriguing is this government organization is one of 12 premier national scientific laboratories across the country of the US. I got to noticing all of the chaos and the busyness and thus the lack of focus on what's important. I got to ask myself questions about that. And one of the things I noticed is there are no goals here. The team doesn't have goals, leadership doesn't have goals, and management above middle management doesn't have goals. As a matter of fact, it's so bad that when I approached management above mid-level managers and started asking questions about goals, they're very project management oriented. And another really weird experience I had was they are so project manager oriented that they could not relate to the term goal. They struggled, and what they ended up doing is trying to translate goal into scope. And this is the first time I've ever run into a group of people who so much do not have goals that they struggle with even the term itself. Sure. But here's the real irony that struck me. If you opened up any book on leadership and management, you would probably find a chapter on goals, right? And there's probably somewhere between 50 and 100, somewhere between 5 and 10 decades of scientific literature behind goals in a leadership and management construct.
Yep.
So here I sit in a national premier, one of 12 scientific laboratories, and we're not even firing on one of the most basic principles of leadership, scientifically proven, which is goals. And I found that to be really, really ironic.
For sure. I've been in environments that have a similar type of dynamic. And what I find is that there is a risk of the concreteness, meaning that if you're explicit about your goals, that means you create a scenario where evaluation can then become very specific, right? You can get a thumbs up, you did that, but you can also get a thumbs down. So by staying in the squishiness of keeping everything abstract, we think that it creates this environment where we're continuously safe, but actually all it does is sort of lead to a reality where we don't actually know where the boundaries are. And that, in fact, is the most unsafe environment you could possibly imagine. Because if I don't know what the evaluation criteria is, I'm just going to stay, like, if I was to make it a physical representation, if I was told there's a cliff somewhere, but I am giving no information about where the cliff is at, and I can't look down to find it, I'm just going to stay still, right? I'm not going to walk in any direction.
The visual that's coming up for me is that's the garden bed of chaos. Chaos grows and thrives in that type of soil. And so you're right, you're walking around knowing there's a cliff probably on every edge of this square garden, if it even is a square, but you're walking around in this muck of chaos caused by a lack of direction.
I like that. I like how that accumulates, right?
And I once had an Agile coach. He was reading a gardening book, and he made the translation of Agile coaches are the earthworms of the garden.
We've got two questions in the queue. We've got Sherry's got her hand raised, and we've got Gennady. He's got energy. I see him like.
Go ahead, Gennady, what do you got? Bring it on, brother.
I think Sherry was before me.
So Sherry's question, what example of chaos is in their schedule? That's an interesting way of phrasing. Well, okay, my initial reaction to that is they only have one meeting a day. And that's the daily stand-up, which is just me calling names and saying, what have you been working on? That's their habit. That's the way they've been doing things. So what example of chaos is in their schedule? I don't know why it comes up that my reaction to that is they only have one meeting as a team.
My prediction is twofold. Number one, they're often going in different directions because if goals aren't clear, everybody does whatever they think is great, which can actually work out. In a chaotic environment, actually, that's what you should do. Ironically, so the agreement certainty matrix is another thing that pops up. Another thing that also pops up is gone now, so never mind. Gennady, what was your question?
I'm thinking about. Well, I was told it's better to pick up people where they are, and regarding targets and goals. Well, I heard OKR might be some useful tools. So
funny you mentioned that. I read 4 books on OKRs recently, and I spent this weekend drafting an outline of that stuff to present to these people, but now I'm questioning.
So my thought, and I'm curious about your assumption on that, is what do you think about the idea to present them OKR and to start softly, maybe to suggest them to what are the goals they would want to implement into the team, whatever goals it might be. It might be something stupid and small, like, I don't know, a new coffee machine or whatever, just whatever contributes to their work, to their working environment, to the way they collaborate, whatever helps. Start really softly, really easy, just in order to get them used to this way of thinking. Talk about a goal. What do you want to improve within their environment that is within your reach and within your I forgot the word, within your charge, and talk about the things that you would like to improve, and then write it down, so make it visible, and then stick to it, and just to see how will it work out. And in my small world, if they make an experience that this thing works out, then they will say, oh, that's cool, maybe it will work somewhere else, and let's apply it on another level. Let's try something new. But just what you guys think about such an approach?
Yeah, for some reason, what's coming up is maybe ask him the question, because I'm the newest member of the team. The member that came new before me, we both had a horrible onboarding experience. And so it may not be a good question to ask, but one of the questions I would like to ask at some point is, ask of the team is, are you aware that your onboarding experience is horrible And is that the way we want to treat new team members going into the future? But that's probably too big of a subject.
I notice I'm defensive already.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so excuse me, Rusty, but this it should be about the team members. Well, I totally feel you that I know it as well. When you have a bad onboarding experience, you see it clearly and you want to improve it. But it's not about
I get it.
yeah.
It's not about me. It's about the team. I get it.
So I just want to highlight, like, Sherry has probably the best idea I've heard this decade, which is like a remix between TRIZ and OKRs. Like these are the type of mashups that are solid gold soul, like that are literally everything I love about this job. So that would be creating OKRs for the worst possible outcomes. And then also TRIZ around onboarding. I would love to see, like, okay, so what are the worst possible objectives we could accomplish this quarter? And what would be the key results that let us know? Like, already that's so insidiously good. And around your onboarding, I think the question that you're sort of running or bumping into that I might want to reframe is how you present. So it's I would not be coy about it, about your evaluation of the onboarding, but I might encourage you to present it in the most vulnerable way possible, right? That, hey, look, I personally have had a really hard time onboarding into this team. Like this, then it no longer becomes a statement of debate or, right, or is that true or is that not true? But just speak from your own experience to say that, hey, I've had a really hard time onboarding into this team, and it has sucked for me in these ways, right? And it is yet nobody's fault and everybody's fault that it is so. And I'm going to lead by example of showing us the Boy Scout rule, which is, hey, I have a problem. This is how I'm going to go about solving it. And I'm going to find the link to the S3 delegation canvas, because that's a really good way to create that documentation that might help you out with that.
Who's doing the activity in the chat?
Sherry.
Sherry, am I at risk of losing this gold information if I don't panic and do a quick copy and paste? Because as soon as this session closes out, it's going to disappear.
Well, if you're on the, actually, this is a really great segue. Thank you so much, Rusty, for reminding me. So
typically I charge for segues, by the way.
Segues, good. That's a strong business model right there. That's a growth market if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's difficult collecting.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send everybody a link in the chat to claim your participation badge for this session.
Save chat. Chat saved, show in folder. Meeting saved, chat.txt. Holy cow, wow, cool.
There you go.
Excellent, thank you. Because there's a lot of really good stuff in here. And thank you for your contribution, guys. This was a good experience for a first timer.
Excellent. So Rusty, I've just sent you a link to a place to claim a participation badge. You can do that to an Ethereum wallet address if you have one, or just to an email if you don't. Bernardi, here's yours.
Thank you.
And Eileen.
We'll find a way to put this on my resume. How about that?
There you go. And Sherry as well. So this is one of the ways that we will create a chain of documentation around participation and the value we've created together in this space. We
It made me want to come back.
And if you want to get technical about it, this might be your first NFT. This is a non-fungible token. And hopefully this can become a reason for you to explore the opportunity space in Web3 and all that good jazz. It is at the half-hour mark. So we have opted to use this time for Rusty and good times. Like I said, in the chat, you'll find also a link up top to a document and I'll link that again. And that has the notes that I've made regarding the structures or some of the specific recommendations we've made. And you can feel free to make all types of good use of that. And I think, Rusty, as well, your enthusiasm for the chat has also given me something to do to put that into the doc as well. So I appreciate everybody's time, attention, and energy. I got to go pick up the kids.
All right, thank you all so much. It was great. Thank you.
For sure. See you around.
Thank you very much, guys. It was a good fun.
Take care now.
Have a good day.